Good. Oh, that's way hot. There we go. How about a mic I'm not used to being on? Good Monday morning. It is currently sitting in at 63, a little bit of rain, and morning talk this morning and every morning is brought to you by our good friends over at Pioneer Care and over at Fergus Monument Company. And we've got a guest in studio this morning, State Senator Jordan Rasmusson that joins us. And Jordan, what a crazy weekend it's been with everything happening in the cities.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave. And it was a shocking and devastating turn of events for the people of Minnesota. And I think we're going to be mourning the loss of Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark for a long time. And to just see the senseless violence take place over the weekend, I think, is leaving Minnesota reeling. And a lot of Speaker Hortman's legislative colleagues really in shock and disbelief over what's happened.
And the other angle that's really shocking and really, like I said, disbelief, hard to believe, is that he was impersonating a law enforcement official. I mean, somebody you trust. You get that ring at 2:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, and you see a law enforcement. You think the worst. You think, okay, did I have a relative that's in an accident? Is somebody hurt? What's going on? And then for that, turn that trust and violate it the way he did. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I would also ask that people keep Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette in their prayers as well as they recover. They were each shot multiple times and are recovering in the hospital currently. And
yeah, if I remember right, the senator was shot 9 times and his wife 8. I mean, to be able to survive that, just the willpower.
Yes, yeah, and I know Senator Hoffman really well. He's the chair of the Senate Human Services Committee, and I'm the ranking member. We were both co-chairs of the committee for the first 3 weeks of the legislative session, and so we've had the opportunity to spend a lot of time together. And he is definitely a fighter and someone who just has a big heart for Minnesota. And so to see him and his family have to go through this is really hard.
Now, where were you when you got notified? Did you get notified right away, or when did they send out notification to the other senators?
Yeah, so I was at home and was contacted about 6 in the morning by law enforcement, just making us aware of the situation and what was going on, and was in contact with law enforcement throughout the day and throughout the weekend.
And obviously, the gentleman's no longer at large, which is nice. They were able to capture him last night, and no further loss of life. I know, obviously, you get somebody who's cornered like that. Obviously, you've got not just Minnesota, but you've got a regional and nationwide manhunt for you. You almost worry that he might want to go out guns a-blazing. So, I mean, obviously, you got to worry about law enforcement at that time, too.
Yeah, very grateful for law enforcement across the state working to find the suspect and bring him in. And whether it was the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, many sheriff's departments, police departments were involved in this search and this effort, including the FBI. So really grateful for all of their diligent work on this really tragic situation.
And speaking of diligent work, I know we've talked about all weekend long. The thinking ahead and the forward thinking of that one officer at the senator's scene saying, hey, this guy's a senator, Hortman's close by too, maybe we should run somebody over there and check that out. And that's when they stumbled on the suspect and were able to get his vehicle, and basically everything really hinged on that one officer saying, hey, let's put 2 and 2 together and go check this out.
Yes, and the other really scary thing as well is we don't know if there would have been other victims if law enforcement wouldn't have acted and wouldn't have been able to get to the Hortman's home and to engage with the suspect.
Yeah, so definitely. And as we talked about this incident, anything else you want to make sure we mention? I mean, you just had dinner with her and her husband just before it happened, actually.
Yeah, Thursday, got to spend some time with Speaker Hortman and her husband, Mark, and I asked Speaker Hortman what her plans were for the summer after a long, arduous session, and she was looking forward to getting into her flower garden. She was known for gardening and as a way to, get a break from politics. And so just really grieving for her family. She had 2 adult children, her and her husband, Mark. And I'll just say that I think Speaker Hortman will be remembered as one of the most consequential political leaders in Minnesota history. She served as 6 years as Speaker of the House, more years as the leader of her caucus, and was someone who I personally got to see was an incredibly hard worker, no nonsense leader, really cared about the work and her colleagues and the constituents she represented. And I think her leadership will be missed by her colleagues at the legislature and across the state.
And as we kind of transition over to kind of speaking of legislature, the special session wrapped up last week, and let's talk a little bit about some of your thoughts on how everything ended.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very interesting legislative session where you had a 50-50 tie in the House, a one-vote majority in the Minnesota Senate, and a looming $6 billion budget deficit. I think some of the key wins that we saw coming out of the session was stopping Governor Walz's proposed county cost shifts. If you remember early on in session, he had about $460 million in property tax increases that were proposed in the governor's human services budget. And I think thanks in large part to county commissioners from our area and across the state coming down to the Capitol, talking about what that would mean for property taxpayers here in Ottertail County. The estimates were anywhere from 5 to 9% increase in their property taxes. And so the final human services bill did not have that cost shift included. So I was glad to see that that was addressed. Another win that we got was increasing Minnesota's psychiatric hospital capacity by 50 beds. And so this is something that we've heard about from our local county attorneys. Michelle Dean's been really active on this. Our sheriffs in the area, Barry Fitzgibbon's been very active on advocating for more mental health capacity for individuals who are civilly committed. And I've had constituents wait in county jails more than 100 days waiting to get into these psychiatric hospitals. And so in the capital investment bill and the human services bill, there's $75 million in funding to increase capacity at one of the key mental health hospitals here in the state.
I've talked to law enforcement before, and I've looked at I work in the news department. I'm actually the news director, and as I've looked through the blotters and stuff, I keep seeing certain names pop up all the time, and I've asked law enforcement about that. And I've asked one the sergeant at the time. I said, what's the deal with this guy? And he goes, well, obviously it's something I really can't get into, but I will say this: sometimes it's a real shame that North Union got closed, meaning the regional treatment center, because some of these people really need help and they're not getting it.
Yes, and it's something that's not just a problem in our area, but across the state. And so I was glad that there was a bipartisan group of legislators, myself included, who were advocating for this increased capacity. It was not in the governor's budget proposal, but there's enough legislators who knew that this was a problem that needed to be addressed, where we were able to prioritize it in both the bonding bill to build the physical building, but then also with operating money to make sure that it's staffed.
Sounds good. As we look towards next year, where do you see some of the priorities? If I remember right, it's a bonding bill here next year. So have you had people come and say, hey, we need this, or we need to look at this?
Yeah, we passed the bonding bill during the special session, and that was one that I think is a really strong bonding bill for the state, where it was all infrastructure and no pork. It had no special pet projects in it. It was all the
kind of bridges and roads.
Bridges, roads, drinking water, wastewater treatment plants for communities that need it. So I think very focused on the needs that Minnesotans had. It included the expansion for the mental health capacity, also a new regional headquarters for the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension as well. So a very big public safety focus. So I think after this bonding bill, we'll reevaluate, and over the interim, hear about additional needs that are out there, and we'll take those into consideration as we head into the next session.
I know you're on the Senate Commerce Committee, and the last couple of years, kind of during the off season, or what you'd call normally the off season, or when you're not in session, you've kind of gone through tours of the state. Do you have any of those planned this year?
Yeah, typically over the interim, as a part of the Capital Investment Committee, we'll do tours of the state to tour different local projects. That schedule hasn't been set yet, but that's I think one of the really enjoyable parts about being on that committee is you get to see a lot of communities across the state you otherwise wouldn't get a chance to visit, and hear about how their needs are similar to the communities we represent, how they're different. And so I look forward to having those conversations over the interim.
Well, sounds excellent, Jordan. We just got just a few more minutes. If there's anything else you want to make sure we touch on and talk about.
Yeah, I just say really appreciate all the folks who have reached out to me and my family over the course of the weekend, and just would ask that as these events unfold, just please keep the Hortman and Hoffman families in your prayers, and to keep all the folks who worked with them, were colleagues, knew and loved them. This is going to be a really tough path ahead here for many of them and for the state of Minnesota, and I think we have a lot of healing to do.
Well, sounds excellent, Jordan. Thanks for coming in, and thanks for all you do to help represent our district.
Thank you, Dave.
State Senator Jordan Rasmusson joining us on News Talk 1250 KBRF. Listen anytime, any place. With the Fergus Now app on your phone, we're going to take a quick break there. Morning Talk brought to you by Pioneer Care and by Fergus Monument Company.